prepara las palomitas. Está a punto de empezar En Sincronía, el podcast hispanoamericano de traducción audiovisual, con Damián Santilli, Blanca Arias Badía y Guillermo Parra.
Les damos la bienvenida al episodio número 57 de En Sincronía, el primer podcast de traducción audiovisual del mundo. Soy Damián Santilli y estoy sincronizado desde Buenos Aires, Argentina, con Blanca Arias Badía en Barcelona y Guillermo Parra en Menorca. Hola, Blanca.
Hola, ¿cómo estamos?
Bien, bien.
Muy buenas. Pues aquí estoy de vuelta en Menorca y disfrutando ya del buen tiempo. Sé que es un clásico hablar del tiempo, pero es que para mí es súper importante.
Pero, sí, me imagino.
Nos va muy bien saber del tiempo del sitio donde estás, Guillermo.
Sí. No, pero además el cambio impactante entre una ciudad y la otra constantemente, eso tiene sus efectos en la salud.
Bueno, tengo un jet lag que no veas, sí.
Cuando vemos a Guillermo más contento está en un sitio con sol, cuando le vemos.
Sí.
Exacto, más apagado, pues con el mal tiempo.
¿Cómo estamos con este nuevo formato video de podcast? ¿Nos sentimos bien, cómodos o no? Más o menos.
Tenemos que acostumbrarnos a mirar a la cámara, ¿no? Mirar a la cámara.
Sí. A mí se me hace raro que conste que, como Damián se quejaba de la calidad de mi cámara, me he buscado una solución. Una
espectacular.
Mejor, con luz y todo. Mira, quito la luz, bueno, algo se nota.
Con luz y todo.
O sea que algo hace.
Algo hace.
A ver, muy lo poco profesional que estaba quedando esto, lo acabamos entre...
No, pero es una maravilla. Pero de verdad, se nota mucho. Entre la cámara nueva de Guille y el fondito arreglado con los libros ahí, que es una novedad también, la verdad que te felicito.
Me faltan los libros de Patrick. 3 libros sí. De Patrick por aquí.
Eso es cierto. La tapa del libro ahí que se vea. La próxima cambias el cuadro ese que tenés de fondo por el libro de Patrick.
Y ya está.
Bueno, Blanca, contanos a quién vamos a entrevistar.
Pues estoy muy contenta porque estamos en la semana del Global Accessibility Awareness Day y yo creo que es una semana perfecta para las invitadas que tenemos esta vez, que son Marta Brescia, de la Universidad Autónoma de Barcelona. Es una investigadora postdoctoral que ya estuvo en unos minutos divulgativos en nuestro podcast y que ha estado trabajando en el proyecto ATHENA, que es de lo que hablaremos en parte de la entrevista. También tiene experiencia en otros proyectos que ella misma nos contará a lo largo de la entrevista. Había hecho una tesis doctoral sobre accesibilidad en medios inmersivos y, bueno, es una persona ya con mucha experiencia en investigación en accesibilidad, también con experiencia profesional. Así que una persona interesantísima para nuestros oyentes. Y por otro lado nos visita Roberta Lulli, que forma parte del equipo de políticas públicas del European Disability Forum. Y en ese sentido estoy muy contenta, ¿no? Porque tenemos una organización importantísima de representación de los derechos y de las necesidades de los usuarios aquí en el podcast. Creo que por primera vez así una entidad tan potente como esta. Y ella también ha participado en muchos proyectos antes relacionados con políticas sociales. Y ha sido líder, ¿no? su entidad en este proyecto ATHENA, por eso ha venido a hablarnos de él. Así que ahora enseguida las vamos a conocer.
En sincronía cada vez con mejores invitados, otros estándares, ¿no? Estamos manejando en este momento.
Empezamos con Patrick y de ahí para arriba.
Pobre Patrick, no se puede ir más arriba.
Que es broma, nos encanta Patrick.
Bueno, muy bien, sin mucha más dilación, entonces pasamos a la entrevista con Roberta y Marta. En Sincronía Podcast está auspiciado por UNA, la mejor herramienta de traducción audiovisual del mercado, 100% en línea. En su suite encontraremos programas para crear, traducir, revisar, transcribir, convertir, codificar, pegar y comparar subtítulos. Además, cuenta con una aplicación para audiodescripción y un sistema de gestión de proyectos a la medida de cada empresa del medio. Su interfaz web es muy intuitiva y fácil de usar y nos permite trabajar como profesionales de la manera más sencilla. Además, podemos optar por distintos métodos de licencias, desde una semana hasta un año. También encontrarán en su web el programa educativo de UNA para enseñar la herramienta en sus clases de la universidad, y de Pool, una base de datos creada para que se encuentren las empresas y los traductores audiovisuales. Pueden ingresar en una.net para probar el software gratis durante 4 semanas, mejorar su productividad y empezar a trabajar como profesionales hoy mismo. Y también recuerden que gracias a este patrocinio del podcast pueden acceder a un 10% de descuento en cualquier compra que hagan en la tienda de Una. Solo tienen que ingresar el código ENSINCRO10 en el carrito antes de pagar y listo.
Hi, Roberta. Hi, Marta. It's a pleasure to have you with us today in sincronía. So we'd like to start with a question we tend to ask all of our guests, which is about your background. Please, could you tell us a bit about how you started in the accessibility field in audiovisual translation, if you have been directly working on the field? And since we want this information from both of you, if you agree, we could start with Marta. Marta, can you let us know a bit about you?
Thank you, Blanca, Damian, and Guillermo for having us today. And my background. Okay, I have a degree in translation and interpreting, and also a master's in audiovisual translation, where I discovered media accessibility. And that's the reason why I did my PhD focus on media accessibility, specifically on subtitling in immersive environments like 360 videos. I'm also part of Transmedia Catalonia. Transmedia Catalonia is a research group at the Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona, where we focus on audiovisual translation, like dubbing, subtitling, voiceover, and so on, and also media accessibility. And I have also taught courses on accessibility, audiovisual translation, and new technologies.
Thank you. And Roberta, can you tell us about yourself?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I work for EDF, for the European Disability Forum in the policy team. For those unfamiliar with EDF, EDF is an umbrella organization that represents over 100 million persons with disability across Europe. We advocate for the rights of persons with disabilities and ensuring their inclusion in all areas of life. We work mainly to influence the European policies, legislation, and practices related to the disability right. At EDF in particular, I coordinate a project, for example, as a European research focus on digital skills, accommodation, and assistive technology to support people with disability in employment. And I also represent EDF, for example, in the Senelec JCT 12 Design for All standards. It sounds really difficult, but very simple. So this committee works on developing European standards for inclusive design or ensuring that accessibility is embedded in the design of product, services, and environment across Europe. And another project that I'm deeply involved is ATHENA, which aims to integrate accessibility and design for all into higher education curricula. And I'm looking forward to sharing more information about this project.
Yes, I will ask you about ATHENA just in a minute. I just wanted to very briefly say it's an honor to have you too. We have had contact in the podcast with other members of Transmedia Catalonia, and also Marta was featured in a Minutos Divulgativos section once. And I think it's great for us also to have such an organization like EDF, because you actually represent the views of many of the users with whom we work daily. So as I was saying, it's a pleasure to have you two here. And yes, the hot point of today's conversation will be, at least for the first part of the interview, ATHENA, which is a European project you were just mentioning. I'd like you just set two key terms, which are in the title of the project: accessibility and design for all. Even though these concepts are known for some of our audience, if you don't mind describing them a little bit for those of our listeners who are not familiar with them, that would be great. And then feel free to tell us about the project. Thank you.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the project is, and you mentioned as well, is in a European project funded by the European Education and Culture Executive Agency under the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union, and is coordinated by EDF and also a consortium of universities like Johann Kepler University Linz in Austria, Universitat Autónoma de Barcelona in Spain, the European University Cyprus, Marasaki University in Czechia, and also we have this European Association of Institution of Higher Education called Eurasia. The main goal is to integrate accessibility and design for all in the higher education curricula across all disciplines, setting up a set of recommendations. And in terms of explaining what is accessibility and universal design is not obvious for everyone what we mean when we talk about accessibility. So accessibility means creating environments, services and products that can be used by everyone, including persons with disabilities, without the need of adaptation. And when we talk about design for all, universal design is the broader approach of designing systems, services, and environments that are accessible to as many people as possible, regardless of age, ability, or background. In simple terms, let's say that ATHENA is about making sure that students in higher education learn how to design with inclusion in mind. So students need to learn about accessibility and universal design and actively shape accessible worlds around them. So they will be, if you think about, they will be the future professionals, and with the right skills and knowledge, they can create environments, product, and digital communication that work for everyone.
I can imagine some people who may be listening to you now thinking, okay, but I wanted to be an accessibility expert. So what are my prospects if suddenly anyone from any area of expertise has these accessibility skills? Can you tell me a bit how you approach this in the project so that there is still room for the accessibility expert, which I understand. maybe I'm wrong, but I understand this is still an idea. So how do these two profiles collive?
Well, we have. I have to say that we have a big gap because so this topic are not part of the curricula, and we have accessibility expert, but or they are expert because of the live experience, or because they focus on studying, for example, technologies and or architecture. In these kind of programs, they can learn more about accessibility and universal design. But because we still have this huge gap, for example, with ATHENA project, we produced several important output and recommendation, especially. So one of the biggest achievements of ATHENA has been putting together a clear set of recommendation on how university can include accessibility in their teaching in the university curriculum, and increase this kind of professional accessibility expert and profiles. So, for example, these recommendations are targeted at key stakeholders in higher education system. For example, the policymakers. We asked to push for binding framework that makes accessibility a requirement in education policies. For example, include accessibility and universal design training as a legal requirement for any higher education curricula. Or, for example, another key stakeholder that it's really, really important is the quality assurance agencies. It's important to include accessibility and design for all as part of the accreditation criteria, or to include the integration of these two principles in the curriculum as a mandatory requirement for the approval of AI programs. We don't need to forget the importance of the academic leaders and program developers. They need to ensure that accessibility is not just a add-on, but like a core of course content and learning outcomes. Educators need to receive training and support so they can teach this principle effectively, and they can promote initiatives aimed to raise awareness about accessibility and design for all. They need to involve different stakeholders, such as organizational persons with disabilities, accessibility expert, or disability rights advocate, and of course, students. So students themselves, especially students with disability, they should have a real voice in shaping how this is done. And the project also pointed out that right now accessibility is either missing from, as I said, missing from most university programs, and all treated as a side topic. So ATHENA is really calling. Well, it's a big achievement if we do, but we are really calling for a systematic change. So when one where accessibility is not optional, but just part of what good education will look like. So it shouldn't be an optional topic. It should be like one of the priorities.
Mm-hmm. I think Guillermo wants to add something here.
Yes, I wanted to say that this makes me think of I don't know. I think it's a European level, but I know for sure that it's applied in Spain. When it became compulsory to have a B2 level of English to get your degree, it was something that until then it wasn't. You weren't forced to do that. So we have politicians who don't speak who don't speak English, for example, things like that. And in our generation, so everybody who wanted to graduate, they may have passed all their subjects, but they still needed a B2 level of English to get their degree. So I guess you're going towards something like that.
Yeah, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
As for example, maybe Marta knows better than me. For example, now the gender is integrated pretty much in almost the curriculum in university. It's kind of mandatory, the gender mainstreaming, let's say. We would like to reach this, the same with accessibility and design for all. I know it's a long way, but maybe we can step by step with and raise awareness. We can do step by step, but also it's really difficult because at national level there is a different framework, different education system. So it's not like there is not an harmonized European system in education. So
I don't know
it's
if
very ambitious.
really ambitious.
But that's a good thing. Yeah.
Marta, I think you wanted to say something.
Yes, just to confirm what Roberta was saying, actually the topic of gender treated as a transversal topic in university was appear during the focus groups discussions. And actually we have it as an example in the recommendations as not the same because we don't want to include accessibility together with gender dimension, but as a transversal practice that can also be applied or replicated somehow with accessibility.
You just raised the focus groups, and I actually wanted to ask you, Marta, about these focus groups that you. I know you were one of the persons organizing them in the team. So can you tell us a bit about the learnings, because you actually talked to many different stakeholders, if I'm not wrong. So how has this been in the project, and what did you take home as a message?
Of course. Actually, the focus group, they were organized during the second part of the project. The first part was more a study of what we already have in the different areas of knowledge. And then the second part of the project, during the second year, we carried out 9 focus groups with diverse stakeholders, as Roberta mentioned, including students, lecturers, university managers, and also external experts in accessibility. And again, one of the key takeaways was that while it's true that there is a growing awareness of the importance of accessibility in higher education, there is still this significant gap in training and practical implication. For example, all the lecturers who were involved in the focus group, they told us that they feel unprepared to embed accessibility into their teaching practices, not because they don't want to, but because they lack the tools or the training. Also, the students, especially the students with disability, they express that accessibility, if it's there, if it's in the curricula, is treated as an add-on rather than something that it's actually integrated into the course transversally, as I was mentioning with gender as an example. Also, and I think the last and maybe the most important thing that emerged was that there is a need for institutional commitment. So accessibility can't rely only on the motivation of the lecturer, of the educators, or the willingness to actually apply some accessibility and design for all practices. It has to be also supported at the policy level.
Thank you for this recap. I think it's very useful. Are these results published somewhere where people can maybe check them at a later
Yeah,
stage after the interview if they listen to you?
yeah, actually, it is very good because now in the ATHENA website, which is very easy to follow, we have published the recommendations, and they are also available in accessible formats, so they can be easily downloaded and used. And I would also like to talk about the sample courses that we created.
Great. I just wanted to
Mainly,
say that Athena, the website is not that easily found because there are many Athena projects with the same name. So if you can just help our listeners and announce the exact link, if you don't, I mean, if you need a
yeah, it
minute,
is
don't worry.
athenaproject.eu.
Okay, because
That's
I
the.
think there have been several funded projects with similar names, and I think it's a bit of a.
It's a nice name, so.
It is. It is. It's not a criticism against the name. I have nothing against it. Okay. So let us know about these courses, please.
Yeah, together with the practical recommendations for integrating accessibility and universal design into higher education curricula, we also created some sample courses in different areas of knowledge that can be easily adapted to specific context for any university, I'd say. And the goal was, and also the goal of the project, not only to raise awareness with the recommendations, but also offer a concrete, transferable tools that can actually help institutions to embed accessibility and universal design into their teaching practices. So I think it's a very interesting resource and yeah, available at the website.
It is. It is, and it's always very good that these projects, which are funded with, I mean, public fundings, go back to society in such a way. So that's great. Marta, can you tell us a bit about next steps? So, what will come next after this project? When is this finishing, or has it already finished
The project
formally?
will finish in June, so next month,
Okay.
and we had the last meeting in Brussels. I think here Roberta maybe can explain a bit more about the next step, but now we are focusing mainly in dissemination, disseminating all the resources we created to reach educators, policymakers, university leaders. So is something that can be actually useful, and people know that the resources are there and they are they can use them. So that's also, thank you for having us today in the podcast, because it's also a way of disseminating our work.
Yes.
And maybe Roberta can give more insights in this sense.
And hopefully with the links we have with Latin America, Damián, maybe some ideas here may inspire others at the other side of the Atlantic. So that would
We
be...
always need inspiration in Latin America, so it's always
No,
welcome.
not always. You also inspire us, but in this case, it would be this direction. So Roberta, sorry, maybe you wanted to say something here?
Yeah, we had the last meeting, the final event in Brussels last 27th of March. It went really well, actually, because we supposed to have just a meeting with the partners, but we decided to open it to the key stakeholders, as I mentioned earlier, and it was really well attended. We had the European Commission, we have the student unions, we had the quality assurance agencies. So we really gather all the stakeholders and we presented. We also discussed the challenges of these recommendations, because as I said, it can be very difficult at national level. And but what we would like to do is to disseminate, first of all, and also because the project is ending in June, we are let's say looking for a second phase. We are just let's say we would like to continue, but we need the funding, and we would like to apply for another call for Erasmus Plus, just to give a continuation of this project, because otherwise everything will be on paper. Okay, we are raising awareness, but we really need some changes. But we'll see, because we are very, after this event, we have very interesting organization that are interested in participating and be involved in the developing of the new continuation of the project. So we really hope to continue. And the idea is to start with the small changes. For example, starting from some courses, and try to integrate accessibility and universal design in these courses, maybe one or two, but it's still something. So involving some university as well, just to see that this is possible.
This is not a formal commitment, because of course this will be on your proposal and this is confidential, but can you give us like a very rough idea of areas of expertise where you think this would be more feasible, or even countries that you think may be more reluctant to this or more open to including this? I don't know. I mean, to the extent to which you are in a position to answer.
I think so. The invitation is for all the universities and also leaders that they would like to to make these changes, to try at least. Now we are also open a conversation with one organization in the US. So basically, this organization is done what we would like to do, because in US it's more flexible. So if the teacher, the professor would like to integrate accessibility, they can do it. So really, really easy. It's not like here that you have to. There are different hierarchies, so they are more flexible. And we are starting this discussion and this. We are trying to work together and find the way how to implement all that work also in Europe. So the invitation is for all the organization and university and teachers and educational leaders that would like to be involved and try to find a solution and propose ideas on that, even small things. For example, another idea that we are thinking about is to start with trainings. Just one of the recommendations that we develop is about to the educational leaders, for example, to be trained. And as EDF, we can do it. We can do like a simple training for them, just to not just raise awareness, but to teach them about accessibility. Why is important accessibility and design for all in their disciplines? And we were talking about focus group earlier. I had this experience running the focus group in Belgium on health. So EDF ran this focus group in health. It was very interesting to listen these the teachers and professors and curriculum developers, because they were really they didn't know why it's important to integrate accessibility and design for all in health disciplines. They just say, why should I add accessibility in my psychology course, for example, or like in a different courses? But this is important because the target, let's say the users, will be also people with disabilities, so they should know about how to provide accessible prescription, this kind of real life examples, concrete examples. So it was very important to really understand the level of knowledge or accessibility, even the importance of this principle for them. And that's why we asking everyone if they want to even approach, if they want to be trained. We can also develop this idea around training people, educational leaders and professionals on the importance of accessibility and design for all.
I will come back to this, but I think Guillermo wants to say something.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the key word from what you said was the examples, because as a former academic who's now a professional, a practitioner, I still love research, but I just don't have any time to do it right now. But I'm really interested in real life examples of when you did those focus groups. How did you come up with specific ideas that weren't particularly difficult to apply, that people didn't realize that they could do, like something that because obviously there are some initiatives that will have to start from the university, and they will need to be trained. So there are some things that will be deeper, that will require more effort on their part. But is there something that an example for any sort of accessibility measure that you can come up with, so that someone who's listening to us that's not a specialist as well can relate to that?
I don't know, Marta, if from your focus groups you have something concrete, more concrete.
Yeah, I'd say it depends on the knowledge area, because, for example, some disabilities are more visible, so to say, than others. For example, for people studying architecture, it's clear that there are mobility barriers, and this is something that no one has any doubt that they need to learn, because they have to somehow take those barriers into account. But there are other disabilities that are not so visible, so to say. And I'd say it's something that can be applied transversally to almost every knowledge area, would be clear communication, meaning accessible communication. And this is something that, for example, I know in Pompeu Fabra, Blanca's university, I know you have like an introductory course where you teach somehow how to create accessible documents, for example. And now it's super easy because, for example, Word itself has an accessibility check. So there are things that are there, the tool is there, but the students, they don't know it, or deliver an accessible presentation. They don't know it exists. And the lecturers sometimes they also don't know how to use the tool. So I'd say, yeah, Blanca.
Sorry. Go on.
No, I was going to say that, yeah, it depends a lot. For example, Roberta was saying that about health sciences, that of course you have some patients. Now I'm thinking in this new film, Spanish film called Sorda, Deaf. And there is a scene where the woman who is deaf is giving birth, and she needs an interpreter to help her, like a sign language interpreter. So I mean, you can, when you see it, you realize, of course, how I never thought about this, but it's clear that she needs this accessibility service. So and maybe the practitioners, they don't even know that she will need that at some point in a critical situation, which can be giving birth. So there are a lot of small examples that we can put in different areas, but for me, accessible communication would be something that can be implemented as a transversal course for all the knowledge areas.
I just wanted to say, I think it is complementary to what you said, Marta, but instead of maybe conceiving this or thinking of these as the types of disabilities, and thinking whether we have visible or invisible disabilities in front of us, I think it's basically the idea, exactly the same thing that you were saying, is connected to legislation that has been promoted in the field of physical barriers. And that's why people in architecture are so aware of what they need to learn, because they know otherwise they won't get a contract, basically, if they don't conform to that norms. And now we have legislation regulating communicative accessibility, of course, and we have a directive, and yes, I think we are on the right path, if I may say so. But it's not the same, at least in Europe, if we compare it to the physical barriers. So that's why I think you notice how communicative accessibility is so transversal and people are so unaware of it. And just going a bit back to Roberta's comment, you were telling us that some lecturers don't know how to implement accessibility in their courses as a topic, right? As a core topic. And I was thinking, yeah, that's why, because also we have reported in research how accessibility is not used in education. So as teachers, as lecturers, they are not using accessible communication. So even as a tool, they are not trained, not aware, they are not trained in accessibility. So how could they teach a core course on this topic, right? And I think that's the most challenging, and it brings me back to one of my previous questions regarding this balance that I think in over time we will need to find between being knowledgeable about accessibility and being aware about how accessibility affects my my specific field, because I think there will be room for all kinds of professionals, both for those actually specializing and for those who will need to consult the experts, but will have some room to move by themselves, let's say, to make progress by themselves in this regard. But I think this is a passion for me. I'm passionate about this topic, so that's great. I don't know. Do you want to add anything about the ATHENA project? Otherwise, we can go on with some more questions for you. Are we okay with ATHENA? Is there anything else that you'd like to share? No, we're fine. Okay. So, Roberta, since we have you here, I want to use this opportunity to ask you a bit more about EDF, about the European Disability Forum, and about other actions that you are performing, how maybe they connect to audiovisual translation, which you know is the topic of this podcast. anything that you can tell us about interaction between profession, users, and also educators, if that's relevant, is very welcome for us. So
Yeah, absolutely. We at EDF we are involved in all kinds of work to make Europe more accessible. One of the big area is the media and digital communication, accessible communication, which connects directly with audiovisual translation and accessibility. Um, for example, we really advocate for practical practical things like a subtitle for people who are deaf or hard of hearing, audio description for people who are blind or visually impaired, sign language interpretation, and making sure streaming platform and media website are easy to navigate for everyone. So we are working on policies, and we are influence the EU legislation as much as we can. We are pushing for stronger laws and better implementation about this, because we have directives, we have very nice policies, but they need to be implemented at national level. And this also ties back to ATHENA, because it's I think for us it's really important, because if students are learning about accessibility in their media, design, or teach degrees, then they are going to be the ones create accessible films, for example, games or website and apps in the future. So that's the long term impact that we are aiming for. So we also, for example, for Athena project, actually, that's why I wanted to add, we developed a position paper that is more policy orientated. And one of the main points is that, so even though there has been some progress in making university more accessible, the universal design and integrating teaching accessibility and universal design is still missing from university courses, as we said. When it's included, is often just focus on technology, as Marta said. And the paper for us is really important, because we would like to also, with this paper, we would like to influence the European European Union position, let's say. The paper said it's not just about using technology to help students, but also about understanding the legal and social rights of persons with disability, and making, let's say, making inclusion as a basic part of how we teach. And the goal is to prepare students for careers where accessibility and inclusion are always a priority. So for EDF, this is really important. Beyond all the legislation and practices, this for us is really extremely important, and we are really keen to work on that and improve that.
I wanted to raise the idea that in this podcast we really like this triangle with practitioners, educators, and users. And I wanted to mention, do you think maybe this is something that you already do as a line of action, but if I'm not wrong, you didn't mention it now. Do you think it would be possible or like a good idea for EDF, for example, to join professional associations when they try to fight for better work conditions? I'm thinking, for example, of subtitlers. Okay, this is. Sometimes in the audiovisual translation well, there are demands that not everyone agrees with, but people thinking that their work is not being well paid, no, they are being abused in terms of, for example, timings and so on. Do you think users have a role here, so that quality is promoted? Do you think as EDF you could maybe join practitioners in this kind of fights, if I may use this word?
Yeah,
Maybe
we
it's too
can. I
strong.
mean, I think we can. So we fight for the inclusive employment as well. We fight for, especially when it's close to the disability rights. We really stand for this right. I think yes, we could. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah,
this,
yeah,
this
yeah.
is I mean, like, I'm not trying to promote any kind of rebellion, but maybe this is a call for those of our listeners who are working on specifically accessibility areas. Maybe if at some point they want to have the input of EDF, they could contact you as an organization. I think you are a very important reference. So
Yeah.
maybe you could join some efforts to push for quality and accessibility.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So thank you. And now, Marta, if you agree, we would like to know a bit more about other projects in which you are working beyond Athena, and if you want to not just talk about your specific commitments, but also about things going on in Transmedia Catalonia. That's also nice for us. So thank you.
Of course. Actually, right now I am in Novi Sad in Serbia. I'm here doing a research stay as part of a Marie Skłodowska-Curie project, which is called Clear Climate, where, of course, Transmedia is a partner. And this project focuses on how to improve climate information services, but especially in terms of clear and accessible climate communication. More specifically, during this day, I will be analyzing climate related websites from different countries, trying to evaluate whether they meet the accessibility requirements or not. We are basically based on the WCAG guidelines. I can tell you now they don't. I mean, the analyze is not finished, but I can tell you that you can
Spoiler,
just opening the
spoiler
website,
alert.
you know that. But we will be presenting the results at the Green Digital Accessibility Conference, which will take place in September in Warsaw. This conference originally started in Barcelona. So it took place in Barcelona for 3 years, and this will be the fourth edition. We are also this year co-organizing it together with SWPS University in Warsaw, who are also partners in Clear Climate. And besides that, as a postdoctoral researcher, I'm also co-organizing a new seminar series that are called Access Talks. And this is an idea led by postdocs and also PhD students of Transmedia Catalonia. And basically, these online sessions aim to promote a dialogue on current issues in media accessibility and audiovisual translation. We want to keep it a bit informal. We will be also inviting experts, but our first seminar will be on 15 May, Thursday, just to celebrate the Global Accessibility Awareness Day. And the topic will be artificial intelligence, of course, no surprise. It's free. It's open to everyone. You can find more information on the Transmedia Catalonia website. We will want to deal with different topics, for example, healthcare, translation, easy to read, easy language. So we really hope some of you of our listener will join us for future sessions.
I'm sure people will make a note of these access talks, and I'm sure they will be very successful.
Can the talks be accessed after the event? Afterwards? Do
We
they
still
record
need
there
to
or something like that?
still need to confirm because this is an open debate right now, because this one will be 1 hour and a half, like the first one, so maybe it's a bit too long, but we are planning to publish kind of a brief, uh, like the main
The
things that came
highlights.
up, the highlights, and so on, so everyone can consult them, because especially this one on AI, I think is a hot topic now in audiovisual translation and and also accessibility services. And yeah, I think
in everything that we do in our everyday life. Yeah.
So yeah, that's why we want to keep it as an open discussion and not to have it too academic, but also we are inviting people from the industry. We are also inviting that pre-doctors, people who are in the early career stage. So yeah, it's just to open a debate and try to make it more for everyone, so everyone can access and talk and express different points of view, and that's the goal. Let's see how it goes.
I'm sure it will go very well, and I'm very happy that you mentioned artificial intelligence now, because one of my questions at the beginning of this interview was how I feel from the explanation of Athena, but this is not necessarily the case, but how I feel that the human factor is still very necessary in accessibility. If from the way in which you explain how these core concepts will be introduced in the different areas of expertise, right? I'm sure that if this is done, then part of the theory may or will involve artificial intelligence. But I don't know whether this is a discussion that you've had internally in terms of this necessary human factor that seems also transversal, and how it may or may not be introduced in the courses related to Athena. I don't know. Is this something that you have discussed or?
No, we didn't actually.
No.
That could
Maybe for
be
this.
the next, the next
Yes.
could be the next topic. Actually, I'm coordinating a project at EDF. We just started on how to use in a better and safety way the artificial intelligence, because for people with disabilities it is important because it's supporting people with disabilities in
Of
some
course.
areas, but that could be also a barrier. Let's say, in the recruitment process, all this at this level, and I'm coordinating this project. Is just a capacity building initiative project for the next 3 years, and we would like to really teach people, our members, on how to use it correctly, the artificial intelligence. But is the topic right now, and we have also, my colleague who is the artificial intelligence policy officer, is working on the Artificial Intelligence Act and influencing the European Commission on that. We just published the toolkits. So personally, I just working on the capacity building and AI, but I know it's the topic that we can discuss for the ATHENA 2.
Exactly, for the second phase. So, Marta?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that one of the sample courses that we developed for Athena, this one was actually developed by Johannes Kepler University, was on digital accessibility. And this course, with some slightly changes, is now being is now working actually in the computer sciences bachelor, and also artificial intelligence. So it's nice because there is an intersection between accessibility and artificial intelligence in terms of how to teach, how to adapt accessibility services when you are using artificial intelligence.
I just wanted to mention something a little obvious to me, but I'm not a fan of AI at all. It's something that I struggle with. I'm like most of us, I guess. We're just seeing how it evolves, and we're trying to find a way to coexist. But at the same time, I can negate that, for example, this episode will be available to more people thanks to the automatic transcription that is created from the recording. So obviously, there's a good advantage if it's used properly for accessibility.
I like how you used the word coexist. It sounded like an alien invasion or something like that.
But I mean,
yeah. It's not far from that. Yeah.
For some people, it is. 3 weeks ago, I was having a therapy session with my students, third year in the degree, because they felt that artificial intelligence was going to take all of their jobs, and I had to argue how it wouldn't. But I think they felt it like an alien invasion, indeed. So
that's the feeling, yeah. That's the feeling, the current feeling.
Yeah, for many people, it is. Yes.
We have to learn how to coexist with artificial intelligence.
And it has to do with policies as well, and how big companies are applying those technologies, because as always, the technology itself is not the worst, like is not the bad application of the technology is what's harmful to society and our way of living and everything. But again, like all technologies, it'll have to be
I think it's great what Roberta mentioned, how now there will be more resources to understand how, for example, persons with disabilities can make advantage of these tools. I think that's very good news. So I don't know if you want to add anything.
Thank you again for having us. Thank you.
I do have an anecdote that I wanted to share. It's not.
Please, Guillermo.
I mean, it's just something that, as a regular, I'm a regular user. I'm aware of accessibility, but I'm not particularly not aware, but I'm not an expert on accessibility. That's our expert here is Blanca, so we rely on her for these things. But what I mean is that I've experienced as a user the search of accessibility in places where I wasn't used to seeing that. So, for example, last February, I went to a film festival. It's an animation film festival in Lleida that's called Animac. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it has to do with it having public funding, because that's one of the things that could motivate the accessibility, obviously. But what I liked is that the program of the film festival was available in the regular edition that was more stylized with many images and colors, but it was hard to follow what was going on and to find the information. And then there was an easier, simplified version, like straight to the point. And I actually found myself using the other one much more, because I could just go straight to what I was looking for and find the information. And I didn't used to see those things because I've been going to this festival for 10 years, and that wasn't a thing 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So in a way, obviously, I guess it's obvious to you, but your work and that dissemination is working. It's having an impact, even if in small places.
I always use the same example in class, which is if you were to sign for a mortgage, would you prefer it to be written in easy to read language or in the technical language? And everyone answers they want it in easy to read, you know. I think that's your example is perfect to illustrate accessibility and design for all, actually. So.
And the message is that the accessibility benefits everyone. So it's not just people with disabilities. So we should create, we should keep in mind that accessibility and universal for all is, it should be embedded in everything for the benefits of the society all, not just as adaptations or reasonable accommodations. It's not. So the accessibility is not reasonable accommodations. It should be embedded from the scratch when we design something. So, yeah.
And what I liked as well is that if you didn't want that easy to read version, you could still go to the other program that was more stylized, and so you don't have to give up something to have accessibility. And that was
choices. That's
yes.
always nice.
It's fine.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so that's all. Thank you so much for being here today, and we hope to invite you for ATHENA too. So please get this funding. We need it. This is a call for evaluators, for project evaluators. Please. We will be very happy to know more about ATHENA in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye. See ya.
Bye bye.
Bueno, muy bien. Y aquí estamos en el cierre del episodio de hoy. Guille, contanos qué te pareció la entrevista de la fecha.
A ver, no, muy interesante. Yo siempre en estos episodios de accesibilidad escucho más de lo que hablo porque tengo que aprender y soy consciente de mi ignorancia y mis carencias. Debo decir que...
Pero siempre hay alguna anécdota o algo, ¿no? Ahí en el medio.
Siempre algo también. Pero como profe sí que empatizo un poco con la dificultad que pueden tener alguien sin una formación específica en esto, en lanzarse a la piscina y decir, venga, voy a hacer toda mi formación accesible y voy a enseñar a los demás cómo hacerlo, porque no tienen la experiencia ni los recursos. Entonces, obviamente, el punto de partida, yo creo que está bien planteado, que es ofrecerles los medios para que eso sea viable, porque además también he sido profe 10 años en la universidad. Y están sobrecargados, o sea, Blanca, la pobre, sufre un montón de trabajo.
A ver, yo me lo paso muy bien, ¿vale? Siempre digo lo mismo, me lo paso muy bien, pero también tengo mis momentos de
saturación.
Sí.
Entonces, ante esas demandas que no bajan nunca, hay que poner facilidades.
Así queda más mono. Así no es insultante hacia la gente, ¿sabes? Hacia la gente que realmente lo está pasando mal. Yo lo digo así y así. Ya está.
Sí. Pues eso, que me parece lógico que yo creo que la predisposición va a estar por parte de mucha gente, pero si se ponen las facilidades necesarias. Y también sí que obviamente lo veo muy ambicioso, pero igual que en su momento se decidió obligar a la gente a hablar inglés y ya está, y hubo a quien no le pareció bien, pero se tuvo que aguantar, pues esto es algo que se tiene que plantear. Obviamente empezando, no lo hemos preguntado, pero supongo que empezarán con las universidades colaboradoras más directas y luego irán viendo cómo se puede aplicar.
Sí, siempre en accesibilidad lo más difícil es llegar a la gente que pasa del tema, o sea, tal cual.
Claro.
O sea, la gente implicada enseguida
Bueno, pero por algún lado hay que empezar, ¿no? También.
O por ejemplo, que haya un cargo, alguien responsable en los departamentos, en las universidades, que tenga, o sea, todos tienen que tener una base, pero que sí que pueda ayudar o pueda generar algunos de esos archivos para quitarles también algo de carga a los profesores, que ya están los pobres hasta arriba.
Sí.
Pero bien, muy interesante.
Blanca, que vos estás contenta con este episodio de accesibilidad. Te vi contenta en la entrevista hoy por la temática y por las invitadas.
Sí, además yo dentro de mi estresito estoy contenta, entonces hoy es un día en el que estoy especialmente resfriada, especialmente cansada, pero me lo he pasado muy bien haciendo la entrevista.
No, pero te iba a decir que hoy te veo particularmente feliz. No sé, más allá del estrés y lo que sea, pero estás...
Gracias.
No sé si es por la temática, pero se te ve muy bien.
Bueno, es la temática, ¿no? Accesibilidad para todo el mundo. ¿Qué más quiero yo, no? que eso. Además...
Estás en Disneylandia.
Exacto, me influye un poco que he pasado un fin de semana con mi niño de 8 meses que me ha pasado este resfriado que tengo, ¿vale? O sea, los niños son adorables y a la vez
¿Dónde lo ha cogido el niño? ¿Dónde lo ha cogido?
Transmisores, pues no lo sé. Tengo una teoría muy interesante, si os interesa a todos, que es en la visita al jardín de infancia, ¿vale? A la guardería que se llamaba antes aquí. Que solo fue una visita en la que él no tocó nada, pero como dicen que los niños se contagian con todo, yo creo que solo de entrar a visitar la guardería ya se contagiaron. Y ya nos hemos contagiado todos.
Solo vio el cartel afuera y dice,
Sí, pero bueno, bien.
Pero
a
bueno.
ver, después de aquella experiencia en el Hispatap Online, en el que en los comentarios la gente me quería dar un vaso de agua, de lo resfriada que estaba o de cómo tenía que hablar de rápido, no sé qué me pasaba, ya no podemos ir a peor. Así que todo bien.
Todo bien.
Estoy muy contenta, Damián. Sí.
Sí, me alegro de verte así, me pone muy feliz. Bueno, chicos, hasta el próximo episodio, hasta aquí llegamos entonces con nuestro capítulo de hoy. Pueden encontrar toda la información del podcast en nuestro sitio web www.ensincroniapodcast.com y también en nuestro canal de YouTube. Pueden suscribirse a la gacetilla del programa también para no perderse ninguna novedad de los episodios. Encontrarán el enlace para la suscripción a la gacetilla en nuestros perfiles en Instagram y nos vemos en el próximo episodio.
Hasta la próxima.
Chao.